You're listening to QCast, presented by Qcella Media. Please consider giving generously to Qcella's nonprofit mission. To find out more about our mission and to make a donation, visit our website at qcast.qcella.org. Your tax-deductible donation will help us continue bringing you quality podcasts just like this one.
I may be bruised, but I'm not broken. You can't take away my soul. You tried to tell me I don't count, but I know in my heart that's not true. So you cannot take me down that path. I'll make it without you. I may be bruised, but I'm not broken. My life counts for something, and you wake up and I'll be gone. You'll know that you were wrong.
Welcome to my show, Shades of Gender. I'm your host, Terry Ryan. Thank you for listening. This show is all about talking about gender identity, dual gender identity, transgender, crossdressers, non-binary, and all these individuals who self-identify with these groups. The definitions of the individuals are often misused and certainly misunderstood. So our goal is to listen to these groups, listen to their stories and the journey in life to get a better understanding of who they are and how they're doing in society. So, you know, we have, I proudly say that we've done 21 shows for KGay, and I am very happy to be back after a 2.5-month hiatus due to the COVID-19 and how it certainly has affected all of us. I am happy to be out, and I certainly am looking forward to starting and continuing the conversation with gender identity. And I hope everyone out there who's been touched by this is starting to heal and learning how to live with this dreadful virus that has affected the world. So today I have brought back Tommy Clinton, who is a founder and executive director of the Transgender Health and Wellness Center in Cathedral City, which is right next to Palm Springs in California. Hi, Tommy.
Well, hi. Thank you for having me.
Well, you know, you're one of my favorites, so. So it's good to see you out, and actually Tommy is in the studio today. Did venture out. You know, things are starting to open up, and we haven't, you know, I haven't talked to Tommy since all this COVID hit us, and I'm looking really to get her perspective on how not only has it affected her, but how it's really affected our society and her population and her center at large. Because it certainly has been like one day we were out and about, and the next day we were just shut down. So you know, tell us a little bit. What happened. Back up a little bit when this first occurred, and I think in Palm Springs we shut down around the 15th of March.
Yeah. So I'm kind of losing my voice today, just so you know. You know, we had to make a lot of different changes, and so we had a lot of peer support groups, and we had to stop all those, and so we switched to Zoom, and Zoom is just not as human friendly when you're dealing with individuals that are going through a lot of things. We continue to do our medical services that we provide, but it was, if we didn't have anybody there, then we were required to shut down for the day. So so you had to have a nurse practitioner or someone that was willing to come in. Could you still do that? Medically, we could still, as long, because medical was still considered critical.
And this was a essential service. Were you? By the way,
service.
that's an interesting point. Was your center considered essential or non-essential service?
As far as we know, it was considered essential. Okay. So it was funny because we were basing it off of if the provider was still doing vaginoplasties or confirmation surgeries.
Well,
so we kind of
Is
left
that
it
right?
on him, and we kind of were like,
So you based your whole center being open based on the surgery?
If the vagina factory is still working, then we still got to do the hair removal. And so that's the way we did it. So,
Okay.
And so we're like, okay, we check all the time. He's still doing them.
Right.
So, and basically.
Well, let's back up a minute. So when you talk about your center, let's give our audience some visual of the services you do provide at the center, and because you do a lot over there. I mean, every room is like it's like a fun house. There's always something going on in every room. So so give us a breath of what you offer, what was open, and then what you had to cut back on.
Well, we continue to do the hair removal part because to trans people that actually reduces suicide and it's connected to mental health with gender dysphoria. So that was important to continue doing to treat that and you have a practitioner who does this, who actually does a hair removal. Is that a licensed esthetician or? Well, no, they in the state of California, a registered nurse or above can only touch a laser machine.
Okay.
And then electrolysis is electrolysis technician who has to be licensed with the Board of Cosmetology and does that. So we have quite a few electrolysis individuals. So we have, how many am I hired now? I think it's 3 or 4.
And you do it right on site?
We have 2 that come in, and then we have a satellite location in Marietta and a satellite location in San Dimas.
Oh.
And so we're about to open another satellite location. Can't tell you where because some people
big
should know.
secret. All right. So these, how far is this from Palm Springs? These 2 locations?
Well, the ones that we have in house, so we serve the entire Inland Empire. Oddly enough, I mean, we have people come all the way down from Big Bear. We have people from Laguna Hills that come down for services, and we go all the way down to El Centro. And stuff. So, although we're in Cathedral City because rent's cheap, it's true, and so we did it there because the same space we would have had in Palm Springs would have been like $4,000 a month,
right,
and we're like, that's a lot of hormones. So but
it's a good central location, really, because from the coast you're like an hour and a half, 90 miles, and then you can reach out south. I mean, do you get much east in Indio and Coachella and Salton Sea? And
we don't get much in Salton Sea.
Do people come up from Mexico?
Yeah.
To see you?
Yeah.
I bet they do.
Actually,
right.
Rob Wirt, who owns Bongo Johnny's, we've been working with him on him and his partner on some asylum seekers that are down in the detentions. So we deal with all that.
Right. And so speaking of that, so I know as a center you have an open door policy. Mm-hmm. Do you have, with COVID, and people social distancing and really the stay-at-home order, how did you manage? Could people just show up at your facility, or did you have to doing by appointment?
By appointment only.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did you start enacting this new procedure?
It was immediately. I was paying attention to Jeff Kours's.
And Jeff Kors, for people that are from out of town, is our mayor of Palm Springs.
Yeah, every 3 minutes, Jeff was putting out an announcement.
Yeah, Jeff was on it. Yeah, there was a lot going on. He worked very closely with our governor, Gavin Newsom.
He was. I was like, check it every 3 minutes. Jeff's putting something up.
Well, how did you feel? Now, California, I say very proudly, was really... it reacted faster than the rest of the states.
Yes.
He was really out there. And to his credit, he worked with the federal government, which I give him a lot of credit, even though they were worlds apart in terms of their politics, was smart to say, we're going to need your help down the line. And he did work with the federal government.
Well, Jeff's very smart and very adaptive. I've known him for years.
Well, no, this is Gavin Newsom.
Oh, Gavin Newsom?
Now, Jeff then worked with Gavin Newsom.
Oh, yes.
And then Riverside County.
Well, I think overall we were very adaptive. We did as much as we could because we're a heavily populated state.
Right.
But we also, as a state, have always, most of us have thought more logically And so we're like, oh, well, this makes sense. And we don't base it off emotional core, which we saw in states like Mississippi, Louisiana, and other ones that kind of based it on emotional core, and it just ravaged the area.
Well, we did so much better than, my other home is Chicago, and, California's doing much better than Illinois. And they have heavy, dense cities with minority populations, different cultures, and California has, I think, done a better job for sure of opening it up and having a plan and adhering to it and keeping that kind of a steady way. It's not to say now, I know Palm Springs itself is astoundingly $76 or $78 million in the budget debt going forward. It's anticipated. They're working on trying to, how are we going to pay for this? Because, we are a city of tourism.
With a credit card.
Yeah, we are truly a city of tourism. And, I don't think people realize this is another point. We have businesses, and we're all about social services out in this area in Greater Palm Springs and Palm Springs itself. But we're also a tourist environment. We certainly don't have that balanced kind of business environment. So Palm Springs, for example, was, when I look at the numbers, you look at Palm Springs, $78 million, a budget deficit for 2020 to 21, and then you look at Palm Desert, and there may be a $12 million deficit with similar gross numbers. So it really tells you that we come here for people come to Palm Springs for the getaway, for that experience.
It's very and I'll be glad when they are able to open the vacation rentals again. There's some revenue there.
Right.
And
they shut those down now. They, for those that don't know that aren't from the area, they shut those down to I think through June.
I think it's really soon.
Like really, it
really
expires,
soon that
but
they're gonna do it.
they came in and they just shut it down like for at least 2 months.
I think it's supposed to reopen really soon though.
Like 29 June. Yeah, it's coming up
there.
really soon. So
Yeah.
and then it was a minimum, I think, of 60 days once it did open. So vacation rentals are very popular in Palm Springs. A lot of people use them. The other facet that I'm concerned about are the hotels. We're made up of hotels too. We have these small hotels. We've got the Hilton Hotel. We've got all the hotels. And what is your feeling, a little personally on how you feel toward like going forward with this virus? What do you feel about the hotels being closed? I mean, you think it's time to open up?
I'm in a different world because I'm going, well, my girls that do sex work are not having any problem finding hotels. I don't know. I didn't know they were really having a problem.
Wait a minute. Wait. They're still able to go to hotels?
I guess
No,
so.
I thought hotels were just filled for people that were providing essential services.
That's an essential service to some
people.
people.
These are supposed to be nurses and doctors. And
well,
Tommy,
that's their clients.
No, this is not. I can't see that, so I don't know. But then the others are the homeless. They're supposed to have. So I don't know. So so what do you think we should open?
We were all on this road of building like the mini homes for the homeless and dealing with those issues. And then we had the hotels. I think we just have to rethink the way we're going to do things. So like us at the Health and Wellness Center, we bought a bunch of those UVC lights. And so we go to each of the rooms, we turn them on for 30 minutes and it helps destroy the viruses and mites and anything that might be a bacteria. So we do that. And so we have a log that we keep and they have to put them in there every 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah. So so these UV lights then they're
called UVC.
UVC. So that you put them in the rooms and you're saying then the move toward better sanitation in hotels or any public place, especially a reusable public place, which would be offices, hotels, business offices that are seeing people consistently. There's not a lot of time in between.
So we're doing that, and so that one gives us.
Is there a study on that? I know you're into studies and things. So is that is that like effective?
So far, we haven't had any issues where we're at.
Right.
But, the trans community as a whole, I haven't heard, except I think one in New York that got COVID, because trans people for decades have been self-isolating. People don't want to have anything to do with us. They don't want to, except if you're in the sex worker industry. And so we are used to being in homes. We're used to being isolated from people. So to us, we were just like, well, this just means
Same old day.
the biggest problem that trans people were complaining about is like, girl, I just got laid off, and anybody know a Medi Petty person on the black market? And so
Right. Well,
the
that's
biggest
true.
thing they were worried about.
The petty, and then the hair and the makeup, and
So it didn't really impact, except the economic factor, of course, like everybody else. But as far as living in the emotional environment and things like that, we weren't really getting a lot of complaints. It was just like every day for us, because we're like, well, we're used to being in our home. We can't leave because we're going to get beat up, or we're used to not being able to go into this place or that place, or being harassed in a Uber or a Lyft. So I want to have a ride with a friend. So it kind of is, it's kind of strange, because I kind of see it as the entire city got a taste of what trans people go through.
wow.
And how do you feel
But
about
self-isolation because of
how do
not
you
being
feel
able
about
to
not
go
being
out?
able to go to the hotel now? Well, we sometimes can't go to the hotel because of what we are. They won't rent to us. Or how do you feel about not being able to go into a store now? Oh, well, we've been doing that for years. So, or we get the looks when we go in. So they don't wear a mask. They get those looks. And so it's kind of like that. So I really haven't, like when I go to the store, because I have tortoises, so I have to go to the store like every 2 days.
And you have all these goldfish, right?
I have goldfish, koi.
Right.
We had a white crane,
She's
but
got
we
like this-
rehomed them.
What did you have? A white
A white
crane?
crane. He liked
Was
he
he
liked the
eating?
koi,
Oh, I was
and
gonna
so
say,
we're
was he
like,
eating
you're
all
getting
your fish?
rehomed,
Yeah.
and so
Good for you.
Yeah.
What did you do with him?
He's out somewhere else.
Did you like put
So-
him in a car and dump him?
No,
somewhere?
there. You know how big those things are? No, oh my god! And then they have that long beak. Oh my god!
I wouldn't
it's
even
so
know
good.
what to do with that. It's like
Well,
getting
you
rid
know,
of an alligator in your backyard.
Basically.
I mean, honestly, it's a
Basically.
vicious little animal that's used to surviving. So
Yeah, and they have these enormous beaks that are like spiked, and but they took to thinking that my koi pond was a buffet, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
So
Well, it looks amazing. You've got to see pictures of it.
that's my hobby.
I have to back up here. When you talk about, sex workers, trans sex workers, you and I have talked about, I talk about the breadth of the shades of gender, and you have, we're always I'm a little wider than you in terms of the type of trans that I have interviewed that aren't doing sex work. They're former corporate executives, or they have their own businesses, and so you're on the end that I don't have a lot of contact with. So, and it's just, it's all trans, or it's all different gender identity, and really the struggles do remain very real for everyone trying to figure out how they're going to survive in our society. But what percentage would you say of your population that you deal with that are making a living as sex workers?
We don't ask them a lot of that because it's still technically illegal. So we don't want to document anything. But I know quite a few.
Okay.
I mean,
And is this their choice because they feel that that's the quickest way to make money and still be able to kind of be who they are, or is this just a lack of self-esteem, or is this something that just
well, humans are complicated.
yes, they are.
And so they're like
And we're not one size fit all, so I'm not
Yeah.
trying to say that everyone's the same. I'm just trying to get a perspective
there's a
on
wide variety. Some really enjoy it. Some are really good at it. Some do it for survival. Some don't want to do it. And so we kind of leave it up to them. And the ones that don't want to do it and they're like, I want a different life, we work with them and get them in jobs.
Well, that's what I was saying. So
Yeah.
to the next point, you have we're talking about your world, it's like Water's world. This is Tommy's
Yeah.
world. So so in your world, you have, I know a room filled with clothes and donations to get back into the workforce or to supplement people that need clothing and need hygiene items and things, which is, by the way, a great place to donate. I don't know, you may be overflowing with clothes right now.
We just had a lady that lived in Bel Air donate like 40 boxes of clothing that didn't even, some of it still had the tags from Banana Republic and Chanel. So I'm like, girl, this is a Chanel.
Wow, I'm going down there.
Yeah, I'm like, you better
I
wet
want
that.
the Chanel jacket. I've never been
you.
able to afford a Chanel jacket.
The first thing I saw was these hangers that had the Chanel symbol on it.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, that's
Did you
not gonna
take it
last.
already? No, excuse me, wait a minute. What size is she?
Well, that's all right, because she was, I tried to put it on.
I'll take it small.
It fits my leg.
Good.
know.
That means it'll fit me.
Yeah, it'll fit you. It won't fit me. No,
Well, that's good.
There's too many burgers
that
here.
Could be a good. That should be like an auction donation or something.
It's
better
really
clothes,
nice.
Right? Yeah.
But it's great that people are like all the way
And
from
how
Bel
did
Air.
she get to you? That's my next question. How did this woman get involved with the center?
Somebody knew somebody, and they called us and said, hey, I got all these. She converted her 2-car garage into her wardrobe, and she's downsizing. Do you want these clothes? And they're really high end. And I said, sure. So we took them, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like the really high end stuff. And so we have so much right now, but we don't have a lot of big people clothes.
No, I see what you're saying, because they're too small. And right. So what I'm thinking, though, are you thinking of doing an Angel View kind of a revival model on some of your things, or is this?
We've thought about it in the past, but we haven't really. Our primary focus is social services, crisis management. Like there's been a spike in sexual assaults off of Grindr that we've been dealing with. And
now Grindr I'm just population.
How do you know what Grindr is?
Well, I know what Grindr is, but
there we
Grindr
go.
is really, isn't it? It's a sex site, basically, right?
It depends.
Or I should say a meetup site.
Because
right?
I'm on there, but
Okay.
the sex workers and the people
And you're
reach
not
out
getting
to me.
any hits.
I don't. Well, I get hits, all right. But I'm just like.
Well, the people I've known that have used it, friends of mine. I was out with a friend of mine who visited. I was in Chicago, and he was over, and he said he's like sitting there on his phone. He's had lots of cocktails, he could barely. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Do you know that there are 40 gay men in this building that are willing to have meet me up right now?"
Yeah.
And I said, "You're kidding." So I said, no, I didn't realize that there are 40 gay men in the building that want to have sex. So, and
Well, COVID has kind of caused a lot of monogamy with us being inside.
Well,
the
that's
houses,
right. Now that's, that is a good point. I mean, speaking of that, so let's go back to your center. So your center is, so we have our clothing. We've got, you started some like 12-step or self-help meetings you're trying to expand some of that, right?
But right now it's not going.
How do you get back into, so I guess, you've been carrying on by appointment, you've been offering your laser removal, your electrolysis. I'm sure you have a hotline for suicide hotline.
We have an 800 number. That's a crisis number. So if they call,
how often do the people call on that?
Not a lot. Most of them reach out to us through Messenger. Mm-hmm. So like they'll reach out to me. Like the latest one that was sexually assaulted reached out to me through Grindr and said, I wanted to let you know that this happened with this person and stuff. Or they'll reach out to me through Facebook Messenger, or they'll send it through our info@trans.health. So there's a wide variety of people, but mostly it goes through social media that I have noticed. And so that's one of the reasons why I keep my Grindr account, is because when I have things like that, I'm like, my God, it's only like $60 a year. And this person, now I've connected with mental health and therapy, and we're connecting them into services, and we're showing them that they're not alone. So sometimes people are very they take a high risk situation, and then other ones it just happens horribly. And so because I live in a different world, as you said, I'm just accustomed to it.
Right. I mean, you really are you're there for you're there for your community, and you're there for the transgender community, no matter what level they're coming in at, and you often, I know, see people that are just kind of coming out that have been either, some are homeless, some are, doing whatever to survive, and you're giving them a place to feel that they can the services to help them move to the next level.
We do that. And then also, for instance, we have 2 volunteers that are trans women. One is a retired English professor, and the other one is a retired CEO of a health facility. So we have a wide variety of people that seek services, and then and so we try to keep ourselves just there, because our biggest goal is to just help them find their way,
right,
and find happiness if we can help them with that. Sometimes they're not
Well,
going to
you
do
have
that.
social worker on call or on staff?
We do not have a social worker on call. We do have a fellowship of mental health providers. So usually they contact me, and I kind of vet them, and I say, you know what, I think this one would be best for you. Why don't you try this one out? It's free, and she'll do it by Zoom with you. So like one of our
And are they through the county, or where are these? Who pays for this? I mean, how do they get connected? Because so many people can use social services person. I mean, it's because they're trying to figure it out, and they need to figure out, who they are. And
well, like one of them, she's a nurse practitioner. She's getting her licensing in psychiatric nurse practitioning. So she's working her hours that she needs to get that credentialing. And she's from, I think it's the University of Redlands. And then we work with the University of San Bernardino. And there's another one that I'm not remembering right now, and I'm going to get scolded for not remembering it. But
that's
we work
okay.
with
They'll
them.
forgive you.
Yeah,
we'll have you back on so you can talk about them.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, when you're on next week, you'll be like, hey, now I remember.
So they come in and we vet them a little bit. Like the one that's a nurse practitioner, she worked at R.J. Donovan Prison, and she worked with the transgender inmates. And then also she's Pakistani, and she supports the Pakistani trans women over in Pakistan.
Oh.
Yeah, and the arts and stuff. So
right.
they're very different, and they have a different perspective. And so we kind of ask them, like, what do you do that's been for the trans community? Because everyone always says, oh, yeah, I support the LGBT community. They really mean gay men. And so we're like, no, sexuality, sexual orientation is different than gender. And so we start finding out about them, and then we connect them. So we got some that specialize in recovery, some that specialize in K through 12, that has like a gender and sexuality certification through the university. And then we have ones that are dealing with life crisis, life management, life skills, and correctional systems. So we try to make sure that we try to fit them where they're going to fit. And we give the number, they call them, do the introduction, they set up the appointment through Zoom for now. And so that really helps out the trans community a lot, because there's a lot like in Yucca Valley, and when you go to 29 Palms, you go further up. And so just getting down here for mental health appointments, like going to LA and back.
It's really difficult.
Yeah.
I also think that, again, it's like any blanket definition of calling someone homeless or someone trans or someone gay or straight, whatever, that if they're coming to you and they happen to be trans or they have gender identity issues, because I'm sure you get people that are dual gendered.
We get gay men.
So you get a little, so it's just not, at 5 years old, I've decided I'm a woman or a man, and it's not that way. It's just people dealing with gender issues. But they may have drug issues. They may have, because of their drug issues, they may be homeless. They may have psychiatric issues that are compounded by the drug use. So, like in any person, because I went through treatment, so I'm like 28 years, so I know how that is. And the first thing they do when you're stoned out of your mind is they try to figure out if you're really crazy or if you are high, and they have to separate out. They have to dry you up to figure out where you are mentally. So I would think with what you're doing is that you're kind of a first step here, because it's a complicated kind of process here. It's beyond just gender identity, and I think you're getting more of that grassroots where you are, because you are a center and you're for health and wellness. So I'm glad to hear that you have like these tentacles, these places to move people in, to give them kind of the next step, so they can.
We do that, and it's not only about gender identity. People face recovery issues.
Right,
and,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, they may have an alcohol problem, they may have a drug problem, but it's helping them with that drug problem, because it's going to help them get a better idea of who they are. By not being high, and then you can kind of figure it out. So it's really hard to kind of figure out your gender identity even deeper if you're stoned out of your mind all the time.
That's true, and you don't have the ability to develop.
No, you don't. You're as we say in the program, where you were, where you drank alcoholically or you drugged, is the last where you were. So, if you are 22 years old and you're 42 and you've been doing it for 20 years, you're kind of stuck at 22 years old. You haven't mentally been able to develop as an adult with adult experiences, because you have not been, you're not there mentally.
Yeah, so. you're and the emotional maturity and
the
reality of it. It's extremely difficult.
It is, and we have a real problem with drugs in our society now. I mean,
we do.
And the reason that there's more homeless is because of more drug people, people caught up in drugs, that they lose jobs. I mean, I know when I was drinking alcoholically, I lost 2 jobs in one day.
Well, congratulations.
I went back and I had a drink, So, but
that's some dedication.
That was dedication.
Yes.
It took a lot of work to go in and lose 2 jobs in one day. So, I of course, because I'm in recovery, I'm a big, I know that there's more to life than, again, it feeds into gender, gender identity is one component, but then it's a question of where they come into you and what you provide for that. So.
Yeah. So we also we have gay men that come in and get services as well. So when they want mental health, we tell them, because one of the problems that you have right now is it takes so long to get into somebody. And we're like, well, we have them here, and we could probably fit you in a week or so. And they're like, oh my God, the other person said it's going to be a month before I get in. I'm like, no, that's bad.
Right. It is bad. Well, it's a problem with this whole COVID. You can't wait 10 weeks or 2 months or even sometimes a week to go in and see someone when you need help, and that's both physically and mentally. So you're connecting.
That's a very long time.
It is a very long time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just people are dying of heart disease and dying of killing themselves, and they're not getting the kind of help that they need. So where do you then see as we go forward, and I guess your center at large, and as we open up, what are your plans for the summer? What kind of support? How's your fundraising? I'm sure has been more challenging.
It has been. We were going to host our annual fundraiser in June, and that's not going to happen. So we're that was going to be at the Camelot or Palm Springs Cultural Arts Center.
And you're in entertainment, I'm sure. Yeah.
So we're looking more maybe to a garden party in the fall. And doing that,
I think October is going to be a very popular month out in Palm Springs area. Most of the people to me seem like October's the month, because September's still a little warm, and I think October, November, December could be really very, very busy.
So our donors that are big sponsors of it, they just said, why don't you wait and see how this is when they open up, what's going to happen, and then plan your life around that. But
so pick a date and then they'll support it, kind of.
Yeah,
thing.
basically they'll support it. And so some of our big donors, I mean, they're the ones that write the checks for $5,000 at a time, But they're really supportive. They understand that the trans community's kind of got the bad end of the stick, as per se, and after 50 years, they're still that's
what I was asking. There's I felt too, even with the show, I wanted to, when you're concerned about stepping outside because there's an unknown virus that could kill you on the spot, the social issues kind of gets stalled a bit, and
Yeah.
people don't want to talk about necessarily that. We're looking at the fact that we're going to live or die, which again puts us all together, no matter if we're where we are in the gender scale. We're still people trying to live and not, get a virus that could kill us. Yeah.
I don't know. I just have to live day by day, and I wash my hands. I have we got 3 gallons of hand sanitizer. I'll tell you what, I could pay off my car with it right
Yeah.
now.
Well, how many rolls of toilet paper do you have? Have you
I
stocked?
keep it in my office. I hoard it like a squirrel.
Me too,
And so
yeah.
I issue it out because I noticed it was disappearing.
Don't you
in
get
the
nervous
supply
now
room.
when you don't have like 45? I used to have like 4 rolls of toilet paper in my house. Now I looked under my sink because I moved into a new place and 2 of my cabinets are filled with paper product supplies. And now I get nervous when I don't have 45 rolls of toilet paper. I mean, I literally was getting nervous, like, oh my goodness, I only have 45 rolls. And I thought I used to only have like maybe 4. in the house.
Underneath my sink, I still have a row of those 3 Clorox wipes.
Oh no!
I looked at those.
I'm down to my
and I'm just like,
last
this is
one.
So pretty.
Oh, it's wonderful to just look at them. I have the aloe with the alcohol. Alcohol is big still now, but I'm noticing, and then of course, there's plenty of masks I'm seeing now that they're all over the stores. But it's going to take a while to get over hoarding paper products. Because and sanitizers and masks mask again, I'm not worried because they seem to be like at Walgreens when you can buy them out, and even hand sanitizers.
I saw these tiny little masks like I'm wearing, these little medical masks.
Do you have a problem breathing in those?
Now, I want to change. So we have
And also they're bad with makeup.
one of the ladies, yeah.
I know.
One of the ladies at Asia SF Palm Springs, she's making masks, handmade masks, and so she's been coming in and getting some of our old clothing that we can't use. We're refurbishing it into masks. So she's selling those, and then to make money right now, and then also she's donating some, and which we're giving out to the trans people that are low income that can't afford them.
Good.
And so,
Good.
and homeless people in general, if they come in the door, we're not going to say, well, you're not trans, you can't have one. We've had people come in, and we're like, no, you can have one. So we are.
They're hard to
we are
breathe in
doing that.
115 degrees. So
It's
I mean,
really
it's going to be
difficult.
really hard. It's hard enough to survive in the desert during the summer if you're on the street, but
The fiber affects my throat.
It does.
And so I sneezed, and I swear to God, I looked like everybody was going to squeal like the pod people when they see somebody. You know?
you can't sneeze.
No, you can't
No.
sneeze or
If you're in a
anything.
grocery store and you try to sneeze,
They'll take you out.
they'll take you out. They will. I
Yeah.
mean, and I think they actually may just gang up on you and drag you out of the
Yeah.
store. I mean, it's people are
terrifying.
really, really crazy. I like this, social distancing. I understand. I kind of liked it when it was that. I think when now with masks, you're close, and you're not paying as much attention. I
You
noticed
still
I don't
gotta
wash my
rush
hands.
those little marks on the floor.
Oh,
I
those-
still with those.
Yeah, those are really good. I like the
Yeah.
social. So I don't know. When I have you back in the show, so we'll remember that sponsor that donator. that you forgot, and then we can talk further about kind of where we are today. I mean, I think for society at large, obviously, this is a process and of getting back to normalcy, and that this,
Our new normal.
yeah, the new normal. That I mean, again. We don't know. I mean, when I read that this virus could be with us for decades, I mean, obviously we have to get back to work and we have to get back to other things besides COVID and just do the best we can and, get back on living our life. Because as we said earlier before we came on air, we're a social society. I mean, we need to be with each other,
We do, and although we fight and argue about different political beliefs or whatever, at the end of the day, we're still socializing when we're doing that.
I had to ask you before I forget. You have a daughter.
My kid?
Yeah. So how is that going with what is she, 12 or?
No, she's a foster kid. She's 20 now.
Oh, okay. So is she living with you? Is she sheltering in with you, or is
No,
she? Oh,
no, she's down in San Diego.
oh, so she's good.
Yeah, she's down there just doing her thing.
Oh, okay. So you
She's
don't.
at that age, where you can't tell them anything, and they got to figure it out, and then they come back to you and yell at you because you didn't tell them.
I see.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're
That
saying.
I'm-
There's
I'm-
no accountability.
I'm in that phase.
Yeah,
and-
it's all your fault. Everything that's going on in her life is your fault.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
it's there's just no way around it.
Yeah.
It's going to be your fault, and
It's always my fault.
yes, and then she'll learn her lesson, and It'll still be your fault.
It's just part, yeah,
It's always going to be your fault. So anyway,
Probably.
Tommy, I'm going to say goodbye,
Goodbye.
adieu, and I'll see you on the other side of COVID-19 normalcy of some type.
The other side of the rainbow.
The other side of the rainbow. So thanks again, and I'll see you soon.
Thank
And I want to thank my audience today for listening to Shades of Gender. I'm Terry Ryan, your host on KGay 106.5.